Imagine this. You're a young college student full of dreams, working hard for a bright future you're building yourself. Then you meet someone and go on a first date. A first date that should have been a fun beginning turns into an unimaginable nightmare. This is the story of Sade Robinson, a 19-year-old girl who went on a date with a man and never came back. What happened to her after that night? And how could a man commit such unspeakable cruelty? Brace yourself, because the story will shake you to your core. Let's get to know Sade first. She wasn't just a name in a headline. Sade Robinson was a vibrant, cheerful, and incredibly ambitious young woman. At just 19, Sade was a student at Milwaukee Area Technical College. She wasn't only focused on her education, she also carried great responsibility. Sade worked two part-time jobs, a true testament to her persistence and dedication, to help pay for her tuition and ease her family's burden. To her family and friends, Sade was a role model. Her younger sister, Adriana Reams, proudly described Sade as a protector and a role model. Sade was a persistent person fighting to build her own life despite a difficult past. She was shaping her future, weaving dreams of independence and success. Sade was a bright light for her family, a blossoming hope. Tragically, all those dreams were shattered in an instant at the hands of a man she had just met. In March 2024, fate brought Sade together with Maxwell Anderson, a 34-year-old man. They first met at a bar in Milwaukee. Perhaps there was a light conversation, laughter, or a momentary attraction that led them to agree to a date. That first date finally happened on April 1, 2024. They spent time together, enjoying drinks at two different bars in Milwaukee. Surveillance footage and digital trails from both their phones tracked their movements throughout the afternoon and into the evening. Everything seemed like a normal date, a beginning many might dream of. No one suspected that behind the smiles and laughter, a darkness was ready to swallow everything. The normal atmosphere ended when they decided to go back to Anderson's apartment on the south side of Milwaukee. It was here that the apartment walls became silent witnesses to the beginning of an unimaginable horror. The evidence later found on Anderson's phone was truly horrifying. Photos and videos showed Sade in a very vulnerable state, lying helpless on a sofa. Prosecutors argued that Sade was unconscious or unable to fight back, and Anderson took advantage of her condition to commit heinous acts against her. Details presented in court suggested that physical violence and sexual assault occurred before Anderson brutally murdered Sade. The next morning, April 2nd, 2024, became the next silent witness. A video recording showed Sade's car leaving Anderson's apartment. However, the car was not heading to Sade's home, but to a park on the shore of Lake Michigan, a quiet and remote place. It was in this park, according to the prosecutor, that Anderson committed an act that crossed the bounds of humanity. There, he murdered Sade Robinson, then dismembered her body. Coldly and incalculately, Anderson cut the victim's body into several pieces, intending to destroy evidence and make the remains unrecognizable. After committing this vile act, Anderson still tried to cover his tracks. He drove Sade's car behind an abandoned building and then set it on fire. After erasing all the tracks he could, he went home on a public bus as if nothing had happened. The silence and routine of his actions after committing such a cruel crime are truly terrifying. Sade's family reported her missing shortly after the incident. Their concern turned to terror as the police began an intensive investigation. Through hard work and the collection of forensic evidence from various locations, the pieces of truth began to emerge one by one. But each piece brought deeper sorrow. Parts of Sade Robinson's body were found scattered in several locations in and around the Milwaukee area. A leg was found in the park, not far from where her car was burned. Another foot and leg were found near a playground, a place that should be synonymous with children's slaughter, now stained by horror. And even more gruesome, a torso and arm believed to be Sade's were found on the beach in suburban South Milwaukee. However, among all the discoveries, one crucial part was never found: Sade's head. This, of course, left an unhealable wound for her family. How did the police finally connect all the pieces of this puzzle to Maxwell Anderson? The intensive investigation involved analyzing cell phone data from Sade and Anderson, and CCTV footage from bars, the apartment, and the bus route Anderson took. Every digital footprint, every pixel of footage became irrefutable proof. Investigators meticulously gathered strong forensic evidence, including DNA traces and fingerprints that pointed directly to Anderson. When all the evidence was collected, there was no doubt. Maxwell Anderson was immediately arrested and charged with the horrific crimes he committed. This process showed the incredible dedication of law enforcement who worked tirelessly to bring justice for Sade. In June 2025, public attention was fixed on Maxwell Anderson's trial. He was charged with 4 very serious counts: first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, arson, and hiding a corpse. The courtroom became a stage where horrifying evidence was presented. Heartbreaking testimonies were heard, and the cruel truth slowly unfolded. During the trial, Anderson remained steadfast in his claim of innocence. He even tried to deflect blame by suggesting the possibility of another kidnapping that occurred after Sade left his apartment. However, the strong forensic evidence, video footage, phone data, and testimony from investigators and other witnesses convincingly linked Anderson to every crime he was accused of. The prosecutor carefully pieced together every piece of evidence, building an irrefutable narrative. Anderson's lawyer, Tony Cotton, attempted a defense by highlighting Anderson's military service and mental health issues. However, the facts and evidence presented were too strong to be refuted. Finally, the jury found Maxwell Anderson guilty of first-degree murder, mutilating a corpse, and arson. The charge of a hiding corpse was dismissed by the judge to avoid double jeopardy, as Wisconsin law prohibits conviction for both mutilation and hiding a corpse simultaneously. The culmination of this legal process occurred in August 2025, when Milwaukee County Judge Laura Crivello sentenced Maxwell Anderson. Judge Crivello was unmoved by the defense pleas. In her strong and emotional ruling, Judge Crivello rejected all defense arguments. She stated that Anderson showed not a shred of remorse for his crimes. "You have a different view of reality than the world," the judge said. referring to Anderson's constant denial of the evidence. Judge Crivello even called Anderson's crimes unforgivable and like something out of horror novel. She emphasized that a life sentence without the possibility of parole was the only way to protect society and reflect the seriousness of this unspeakable crime. She also imposed an additional sentence of 7.5 years for mutilation and 1.5 years for arson. Justice, tough bitter, was finally served. However, behind the legal verdict lies endless grief. The courtroom was filled with raw and unbearable emotion as members of Sade Robinson's family delivered their victim impact statements. Sade's mother, Sheena Scarborough, with a trembling voice and tears streaming down her cheeks, begged Judge Crivello to have Anderson sent back to hell as soon as possible. She also stated that this monster deserved no protection in prison. Carlos Robinson, Sade's father, also expressed his deep anger. He even suggested that Anderson be treated the same way he treated his daughter. Everything he did should be done to him, he said. No human being should be allowed to live after what he did. That's how I feel. I can get past this. I can. But perhaps the most heartbreaking was the testimony of Adriana Reams, Sade's 16-year-old sister. Adriana described the horrific psychological burden she had to bear at such a young age. What he did was more than just killing or mutilating my sister, Adriana said in a hoarse voice. He erased her independence, her ability to fight for herself. He tried to erase her existence and her worth. The family's suffering was also compounded by the fact that Sade's head has not been found. Carlos Robinson revealed that this uncertainty causes night terrors and constant mental chaos, as there is a possibility he can never give his daughter complete peace. Sade Robinson's story is a painful reminder of the fragility of life and the potential for darkness within humanity. It is a mirror that forces us to re-examine how we interact, how we protect the vulnerable, and how we uphold justice. This story is a bitter lesson about the importance of personal vigilance, the dangers of dating violence, and the need to build a safer, more supportive social environment. We must continue to fight for justice, support those who are hurt, and work together to create a world where a first date never ends in tragedy, and where everyone can build their future safely and without fear.